today we are welcome to have our guest who has been in the telecommunications and software industry for many years and has proven to be an effective leader, specialist, and educator in his own right. Please welcome Hernán Romano. Hi, Hernán. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. It has been a nice day for me. What about you?
I'm actually amazed with how your career has went for about 14 years. How did your career start?
I worked first as a telecommunication engineer,
Mhm.
and then it was for 7 years, almost 8 years. So I decided to shift just a little bit my professional career to software engineer. Yeah, you summarized everything pretty well.
When you started your career, is it something that you dreamed of when you were still young?
I was always interested in technology in general. I didn't have like a specific topic that I wanted to pick, like I wanted to go deeper into. And after like going to some universities, visiting different kind of colleges, I decided to go for something related to engineering. That was my first thought. And after that, I had the opportunity to start in a period at the university. They have 2 years at the beginning where you can actually start thinking about what will be the choices that you have later on in engineering. Like that phase is called general studies. You have the options to pick different type of subjects from different careers, not only engineering. In that way you can like taste a little bit of everything until you feel sure that you can move on to the second phase. And the second phase is like, okay, you pick a career, focus in your career. And a telecommunications engineering in that sense is a really transversal career. Like every type of companies, domains, organizations need somehow technology behind the scenes and communications behind the scenes. And that is why this was like a natural initial choice for me. So yeah, I dream like working in technology. I don't have like a specific goal. Like, yes, I want to work in this organization. I want to do this. I mean, no, at the beginning it was not like that. At the beginning was let's try everything, a little bit of everything, and then decide where to go.
Do you still remember your first exposure to technology that made you interested to take that route?
First exposure, okay. That one is an interesting one because I remember clearly what was the moment that I started like learning for real, like applying the things that I was learning. And this one was my thesis. The topic was related to telecommunications, mobile communications, and also software engineering. I have to extend a product which was implemented in an internet service provider. So now you can start thinking, oh, now I know why you are a software engineer now. So yeah, that was the moment. I think it was during the thesis, the last year of the university, when I start putting in practice things and I start looking like all the things that I've been studying has some kind of meaning, right? And it has some kind of purpose later on. Like it can help, in this case, a specific organization, a private organization, but I could see the value in that. Like this solution could be applied like for any type of organization that is willing to use it. So yeah, I think that that was the first moment that I feel like, yeah, what I'm doing makes sense.
Right. So take us through what a telecommunications engineer is like.
I had opportunity to have different type of roles along this way. Like since I was like intern in a company until I managed to be the CTO of a company later on and to manage like around 25 people. So how was my day? First of all, telecommunications engineer has different type of specializations as any other career. You know, like you can be a mathematician and you can think about like pure mathematics and you can focus on research, or you can also apply science. In the case of telecommunications, you can follow something really similar. You can follow a path of research, or you can follow a more practical side. In my case, I was in consulting companies, meaning that In the case of one company or organization, public or private, requires some kind of technology solution to communicate different systems, is the moment that someone asks, okay, who can solve this? And they start thinking, okay, I need someone with a specific profile. Like we have this type of computing resources, we have this network in the middle, and then we need to communicate that with another branch or another organization. So in that moment, I was specializing in consulting for networking solutions.
When you're consulting, do you just give advices or do you just do some technical work along the way?
When consulting, there was a process. Like after like maybe participating in a dozen of projects, you start realizing what it is about. In not only talking about telecommunications, but in consulting companies, you have something to solve, something to optimize. So in our case, it's like someone came with a problem to us. In our case, we were focusing on private, mid-sized companies and large companies. So they come to us saying we have this problem. What we need to do is to gather requirements, context, plan, design. After we have all this information at the beginning, we start doing a plan at the beginning, like a general plan, like an overview of what will be if we want to solve this issue. Not in detail. The detail we do it in the next part, which is a design. So inside of the design, we start like looking what are the resources that you actually need, what are the types of hardware that you need, software that you need, and depending on the type of solution, you also have some diagrams related to when you are what is the civil engineer. You know, you have a like a building, and you have these diagrams about the structure of the building is. So sometimes we also need some of this information because we need to know like the wireless communication that we are going to put is going to cover all these specific areas, and what are the materials that are between the walls and all these kind of things, and what are the power that we need to put on this equipment so they can communicate without any interference in the middle. So we start once again from listen to the client or multiple stakeholders sometimes, and then listen, try to narrow down a plan, have a design, and then we move on with the implementation of this. So we implement a solution that we already designed, and then if we provided some services after that, like these services are support services. If the client has guarantee, they can have guarantee about the services that we did, or they could have a guarantee also only for the hardware that they acquire. And that is a cycle later on, because you also want to optimize what you did, and you come up with more ideas to a specific client or customer. And this process is not only for telecommunications, it's like in consulting in general. And you will see the same thing. And also, right now that I'm working as a software engineer, it's really similar. It's like we have requirements in different formats. You know, you have like new features, bugs, defects, but you need the context. You design, you implement, and then your guarantee is like doing the QA testing. If there is something wrong, you go back. So it's not limited to telecommunications.
What made you transition from telecommunications engineer to a software engineer?
At some point, I just started feeling like every solution, if you follow the same process, you know, it's almost the same. In my case, I expose myself to different type of problems and issues. I want to try to solve it. So that is why when I was working as a telecommunication engineer, I was able to plan, design, and implement and all do this whole process for networking solutions, for security solutions, wireless solutions, IP phone systems solutions, many of different ones. And also for software engineer, exposing myself to different ones. So at some point, I was looking at like, okay, I'm getting a little bit boring. I feel like I am doing all of this like kind of mechanic. Like I'm not using my brain fully. Like I don't feel too much challenge. doing all these kind of things. And then I sit down and I said, okay, what will be a challenge now for me? I continue growing in this management type of role, or I go continue to the technical side? What makes me feel more complete or more fulfilled? And then what I did is I did a retrospective, like a personal retrospective. What I liked the most during the last year of my university was the thesis, and I enjoyed the moment that I was actually learning and putting in practice a lot, and everything was related to software. So I said, okay, I enjoy that moment. I want to go back in that moment and feel the same thing that I feel when I was doing this research. I wanted to go to the other side. Like, don't give me the solution step by step. I just want to know the principles and I want to apply it in my own way. Let me do this planning this time.
What I can see you there is you just have a love for learning, love for growth. How do you manage to keep that mindset?
Behind the scenes, there is a kind of a purpose also. It goes around three words: abundance, quality, and also equilibrium. Abundance means I want to have resources available for me, like any type of resources. Okay, it's not only about like, oh yeah, finance resources. No, it's like any type of resources, but these resources have good quality. I don't want like to only focus into one thing and then continue growing, growing, growing. I want to do all of this, like for example, like working all the time. I want to do it this one with equilibrium. And part of the decision to move from one path to another, to find this, to feel like I am as a person, I'm pursuing and trying to reach that purpose or continue through that purpose, not only professionally, but also in my private life, relationships and hobbies, friends, and everything. And that is to give you a little bit more of background, but also about the motivation to study. I think that that depends a lot on personal beliefs of someone. In my case, because of the place that I am right now, also working with technologies, you should also be constantly reading, updating yourself to look like what are the new trends. But apart from that, is the curiosity that I have. I remember that one day before doing all these things, like realizing, okay, this will be my purpose. I'm not a religious person. It's like my personal purpose. Like I'm gonna go live here like for only 80 years, 90 years, maybe less, who knows? But I want to do it living in a way that I want to live. So I wake up one morning. I remember that it was a Saturday morning. We start like dropping all the things that I was doing in that week that I need to do the next week. And then I start like grouping them in different type of tasks. So the grouping was like relationships. That one was big task. Then health was another, hobby, professional, finance. So I start putting all these tasks around, and then the purpose that I decided at the end, all of them must follow that purpose. So in my case, all the hobbies that I listed is studying, reading. I am kind of lucky that I like to read, I like to test things, I like to write, solve solutions, read a little bit more if I don't understand something, and read an official documentation from different technologies, and then apply it. It's for me, at least right now, it's natural. It's like supernatural because it's part like a hobby for me.
From your experience from a telecommunications engineer and now being a software engineer, what are your best learnings so far?
The best learnings. Okay, so let's start first with telecommunications engineer. The first thing that comes now to my mind is like, and it helps me a lot later on, is like follow the requirements. That is the best learning because it doesn't matter which type of project you are in.
Right, right.
If you have the initial requirements, you just need to each of them, and you need someone to validate that. If you have it clearly, those ones works for companies that are in the private sector and also for the public sector, like any of those. I don't know if the word is correct, but litigations, for example, for the public sector, it's the same thing. You have the requirements there and you have to follow each of them. I think that one helps me a lot later on for many of the things that I'm doing currently as a software engineer. And also for university, it's the same thing. For university was like, okay, you have one specific assignment. If the assignment doesn't have like complete requirements, you gather them, you ask, and then feedback. That one is another thing. I think that in software engineering, it was like constantly gathering feedback. Currently, it's like I'm working as a software engineer in a specific company here in Australia, and almost every day we have to make some kind of change in the code base or in the product at the end. Here I have the opportunity, like everything moves a little bit faster than in telecommunication side. It's like I have the opportunity to ask for feedback constantly. I have made the change. Is this okay? This is not. This is the correct way to do it. This is the best way to do it for us right now or not. What are we thinking about the future? Constant feedback. I think that one was the best one because if you are new in a company, you come with a different background than the other people in the cyber team. So you have your own way to do things. You go inside, and then because of this work that I am currently working on, is like constantly I am accommodating to how the team work. And I had opportunity to say, hey, I'm doing this correct, I'm doing this correct. So I have to clean up some misconceptions that I have in the past about different kind of implementation that I had to do. Personally, those are different type of learning. The communications is my life was like dealing with multiple different stakeholders, different type of people, like different levels of knowledge and understanding, different way to behave. Because I was participating in one project, then I finished the project, then I go to another, then I went out, and then I finished one, I started another. So it was a lot of different people, different backgrounds. Even doing the same task was different. For example, one of the roles that I had was also being a trainer. So I have to go to the client after the whole implementation was done, and I have to train them, like giving hours of training them in the new technologies that they acquire. So I have to do like maybe go to visit them like for 3, 4, 5 days, and then explaining like, yeah, we did this because of this, we did this, and we justify it. The reason is this. We took this decision because one of the requirements was this, and this is how you operate the solution. And even in those kind of situations, that is the same thing, like training people, only training. It's like you have like different type of students, different type of people that don't have the proper background, and you have to try to put everything in the same level. Yeah, that was another learning about how to deal with personalities, different backgrounds. Yeah, in the case of software engineers, like I just, it's like one of the changes and the 3 words that I mentioned to you previously. One of the reasons that I moved all those software engineering to find a specific role, job, and how I was looking myself into this new role was like, try not to have too many people to talk with. Like too many. Just narrow down to your team, like focus on your team. In the previous company that I worked as a software engineer was also a big company, like 23,000 people working there, but my team were only 10. So I focus only on my team, interacting with them, with my teammates. And currently we are a team of 5 people. I feel happy like having to interact with not too many stakeholder personalities is something that I also learned. Yeah, and it goes according to the purpose that I mentioned to you there.
You seem to love what you're doing, and it's a piece of cake for you. But I think when you hear words like telecommunications engineer, software engineer, that actually sounds so intimidating. Maybe at first instinct there's some complexities, like what term is this? How do you do this? Isn't networking like complex for that one? Isn't software development really complex in doing that one? So I think for those who would want to pursue the path of engineering, particularly in software or telecommunications, or what would be your best encouragement to tell them that it's nothing to be scared of and it's something enjoyable to do?
Of course, there is nothing to be scared of. And I have a good reason for that. It's like engineering, in this case, it has methods, standards, protocols that are the same for all engineers, basic ones. Now, if you pick a different engineer, like telecommunications engineer, when I was working on that, there was also standards, international protocols that if you understand them, like you are going to understand anything new that will come after that because they build over it. In the case of software engineer, it's the same. It's like you have different methods, you have different concepts in the software engineering side that if you understand it, no matter what type of technology is coming up, no matter what type of programming language they are giving to you, if you understand the behind the scenes, like the basic context of that, it's going to be easier for you to understand it later on, like to build over this same concept. I'm sure that any other person from any other type of background is going to tell you the same.
And one last thing before we wrap up. What wakes you up early in the morning?
One person asked me a similar question to this one. It is a friend of mine, and he asked me this like 1 year ago, approximately. I asked him a question like, what would you like to do if you not work what you are doing now? And this person said, oh, I will be a director. And yes, I want to be a movie director. And he said, oh, really? Yeah. Like, what do you want to do now? And I told him, no, I don't. It's nice. Currently, I'm living the life that I'm living, that I want to live. I don't want a second life. I'm happy where I'm working in the role that I am. I'm happy to work with the people that I'm working with. I'm happy with the relationships that I have, with the friends that I have. Yes, I think that everything that surrounds me, like I can start the day and I can say, okay, today I will focus on my health and I will go to do some exercise at the gym. I want to have like a coffee. I just wake up. I just want to grab a good cup of coffee. I'm ready to start like working and I know exactly what to do of the cases and then I just continue. I think that the purpose that I put, especially at the beginning, is like all of that is making me to enjoy what I'm doing. Like every single thing that I am doing, enjoying it. I cannot compare. If you ask me like the opposite question, like what wouldn't make start your day, is like I don't have nothing that wouldn't stop to start my day.
Again, Hernan, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Eric.